I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
All right, On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast. We have a special guest today, an actual close personal friend, although it's been a few years. Joining us via, like Zoom, is my good friend Travis Womack. Hey, Travis.
How you doing, Luke?
I'm so good. It's so good to see and talk to you. It's been a few years. When we talked on the phone last week, and we were trying to figure out when college was, and we're like 20 years ago, basically. I was like, no, that's not possible. So today we want to talk about the 100-year anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, because that's coming up later this week on Thursday, which is also Veterans Day this week.
Correct.
And I reached out to you, Trav, because you held a pretty cool position in regards to that. Can you share with us what that is?
Yeah, so in 2018, I was the commander of Headquarters and Headquarters Company, also known as HHC, 4th Battalion, 3rd Infantry, which consumed the Tomb of the Unknown and the U.S. Army Drill Team. So I was the commander over those personnel and the staff as well.
Wow.
It's good times.
So what does that mean? I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff you can't say, but what does it mean to be the company commander of, well, actually, before I even ask that, I'm not a huge, I'm a civilian. I was never in the military. I don't know a ton about all those things. But Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, man, I'm struggling saying that. Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I think about the guard that's out there all the time on display guarding that tomb. It's more than that, but give us just a rundown of what that represents.
Yeah, I mean the tomb is it's an amazing piece of American history in and of itself, but it's also much more than that. There's actually an unknown soldier in the tomb, and then in front of the tomb in the other crypts, there's a body from World War II and a body from Korea, and then there's the empty crypt from the body from Vietnam that was identified in 1998. As technology has gotten better, obviously we've been able to identify, remains through DNA and other means. But in World War I, that war was gruesome in its own way, and through a lot of other reasons, there was a lot of unknowns, and so there was a selection process that went through. As France and England, after the war, created their own unknowns, there was a push on the American side to create our own unknown memorial. And so I think it was 1921, I may be off just a little bit, there was a push to, a bill was passed, and they pulled out 3 bodies from cemeteries in France, and they put them side by side. Oh my gosh, the tomb guards could do a whole lot better on this history part than I am. But the body was selected. A bed of white roses was placed in front of it, and that was the unknown that they put on the USS Olympia, and it sailed from France to the U.S. It got here on I think it was 9 November. It sat in state for the 10th, and then on Veterans Day, back then it was called Armistice Day, they put it in the ground. And at that time, the tomb was just about a foot tall marble slab.
Okay.
That covered it. And then why the guards are there is because from 1921, when that happened, until 1930, what was it? 1937, people just didn't really know. It was just the cemetery wasn't what it was today, what it is today, and so people would sit on it. They would sit on top of the tomb.
Oh wow!
And they would
just thought it was like a bench.
No, this is a big marble bench. With this cool railing around it, and and some people would cry on it because during that time, a lot of people's loved ones did not come home from the war.
Yeah.
And so the whole premise of why the tomb is there is to recognize this could be your son or your daughter. In that time it was more obviously your son, but so mothers would cry on it, thinking maybe this is my son who never came home. And so it became this thing of let's protect it. Let's not have a picnic on it. Let's not spill ketchup on it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So there was a guard was posted on November 17th, 1925, 4 years after it was, founded. So when the cemetery was open, there was guards. There was not military guards, it was just guards. The first military guard didn't happen until almost half a year later, in March of 1926.
No kidding.
So that was, I forget what the unit was. It wasn't the old guard. The old guard didn't take over until later. And then they did a 24-hour guard started at midnight on July 2nd, 1937. And they have not missed a guard shift since.
Rain or shine, snow or sun.
Yeah. There's a lot of great pictures of, during hurricanes and massive snowstorms, guarding. And that's why they guard. They guard it to protect it from, anybody defacing it or not realizing that that's what it stands for.
So the people that guard it, it's not about that person, but what does the selection process look like for somebody to become a guard of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier?
Yeah, so it's a great question. The 3rd Infantry Division, or the old guard, excuse me, the 3rd Infantry Regiment is the oldest infantry regiment there is in the Army, and so it's all volunteers. To be in the unit, you have to volunteer again to be a candidate to be a tomb guard. And there's a process of kind of a selection, I guess you could call it. And that's you get some time down there to figure out, hey, because a lot of people don't realize it's a brutal schedule. There's three reliefs or squads for the Army side of it, and they basically do a fireman schedule. If you're familiar with how a fireman schedule work,
yeah.
Day on, day off, day on, day off, day on. So they work 3 out of 5 days in a row. Then they have 4 days off, and of that 4 days off, 3 of them are quote unquote actually off, and then the 4th day is a prep day and training to come back in. And they just, if you get to have all the schedules side by side to see how they rotate through that whole process, but it's brutal. And it's, you can kind of plan out, hey, these 3 days fall over Christmas, or my 5 days I'm working through Christmas.
Right.
So you're down there 26 and a half hours. So you get there early, you do your shift, and you have to stay late to kind of get things ready. So it's a lot of work. So we kind of introduce people to kind of that schedule and allow them to realize, hey, is this something you really want to do? Because it can be tough on you as a person. It can be tough on you if you have a family, if you have young kids. You're tired a lot. You're sleeping during the day and stuff on your off days. So it's just to make sure it's something that you understand that you want to do. And then once you get past that initial part, then there's the actual training part of, learning how to do the maneuvers, learn how to do the marching. The biggest thing is how to do the uniform. A lot of people don't realize almost everything on their uniform is handmade or hand created. So they hand glue all the ribbons. They measure things with a micrometer down to a 1/64 of an inch to make sure it's all straight. And they just immaculate care of their uniforms.
Wow.
And in the pressing, that they have their own industrial press machine in the quarters down there to make sure all the lines in the uniform are correct. And an endless me as a commander watching soldiers shine shoes was a flashback, because the Army's kind of gotten away from boot shining. But so they're like the only ones that still do it.
Really?
So they have their own leather shoes. They're shining. So it's meticulous care, and it's as a commander of them, watching them, just knowing it's that my responsibility was to make sure that they have the supplies they need, that they have the people they need to train, and can they conduct the mission. And it's really kind of inspiring, honestly, when to spend a lot of time around that platoon. And kind of see what they're going through, and how they're developing and continue the trend of 100 years of the tomb.
Yeah, I mean, one as listening to you talk about that, one word really comes to mind, which is just respect. I mean, they take such intricate care of every detail out of respect to basically the people that have fallen before them.
Yeah.
And before us, which is really what Veterans Day is all about, right? So,
yeah, it's 100%. I mean, if you ask any of them, they would all tell you, what they would like if anybody comes and visits the cemetery and visits the tomb, is just to look past the guard and see the tomb, and realize that, there's a sacrifice in dying for your country or dying for someone you love, but it's a whole other mindset to grasp, like to lose your identity, for a cause. Yeah. Which is what the tomb represents.
Which is like huge. I mean, if you think about it, the amount of, we think about Veterans Day as just a holiday, or, maybe day like any other day, but that's not what it's for. And that's why I was excited to jump on and talk to you. I mean, it's totally, freedom's not free.
Yeah.
And
100%.
Sitting here in Sheridan, Wyoming, we haven't been like massively affected like a lot of the country has been by the coronavirus and just some of the other things. It's easy to just kind of, wherever your bubble is, it's easy to get comfortable in that bubble because of the freedoms that we have, because of the people that fell before us, especially early on in World War I and World War II. Goodness, it's hard to just think about how big that is.
Yeah, it's 3 generations before us.
Man, I was thinking on a slightly lighter note. I was getting real excited to talk to you about this today, and I had this memory come back. I'll share a personal story for some of the podcast listeners, but Travis and I in college for a while got pretty into like paintball. And not to bash Travis, but he was like a okay to pretty good paintball player. I felt like I was pretty good, like just relying on some athleticism. And then you enlisted, and you came back home like a year later, if that. And we're like, hey, let's get everybody together and go play paintball with Trav. And it was not fun. You came back, and it was like all of a sudden we were fighting a team of Rambos. Like, I don't even know an analogy to make, but like you were like amazingly better, but then somehow you came back with this ability to make everybody around you even better. That was unreal. I'm like, how? This doesn't even make sense. Like, if you're not on Travis's team, this isn't fun. I'll never forget that.
Those are good times. Playing some woods ball out there in Denton.
That was wild. So that made me start thinking about like, okay, so we've kind of been a little bit out of touch. We touched base a few times over the years, but in the last 20 years, like what does a typical career look like to become commander of that HHC?
Well, I in short, was hand selected for kind of a wild story, and very lucky, honestly, to get picked. I was in the old guard, and so the old guard, like I said before, is 100% volunteers, and so I was leaving a Army course, the Captain's Career Course, and volunteered and got selected. I was like, great, I'll do some staff time. I can run some slides, do some paperwork, and and move on. Go to the next unit, because you normally don't stay there very long. But I was involved in some pretty unique projects when I was on staff. I did some 3D printing for some parts that didn't exist in the Army supply system. So people don't realize the guns at the old guard they're really old.
Yeah.
And anytime you see a football game, let's say, and there's an ROTC program and they're firing the blanks, when the team scores. So every round that's shot from every single school is the exact same round. It's an 81 millimeter blank. But all the cannons are different sizes. So there's all these adapters to hold that ceremonial round.
Oh, no kidding.
And so like the ones at the old guard, they're 105s. And so they have this big breech. They have this adapter for the small round, but the extractor can't reach the round. So because it doesn't exist. So I had they kind of fabricated some things that worked. I was like, we can do better. So I 3D drew and then 3D printed a new extractor that fit the round casing correctly and worked. And so we got that input in the Army supply system, and they 3D milled them. So it's kind of a cool thing. And then I was working with the caisson platoon and did a lot of contracts for them to get new horses and whatever. And somewhere in there we did business with the Amish to get tires repaired. So
Nice.
Which if you want a challenge in life, try to swipe a credit card with the Amish. It's
Not going to happen, huh?
Yeah. But anyways, all that I was known for solving kind of some unique challenges. So my branch is logistics. I was infantry for years on the enlisted side, but when I commissioned, I became a loggy, and so I got selected to be the HAT commander, and hopefully work out some of the logistical stuff that they were having trouble with. The drill team had some old rifles, they needed new ones. The tomb, like I mentioned before, all their stuff's handmade, and just kind of like making that pipeline for them to have what they needed, to do that. The glue, I mean, it's not your normal Army stuff.
Sure.
That you can,
It's a little different.
go get. So I helped them get that, and did a lot of renovations down there for their quarters. Got them a new refrigerator, new freezer. We painted it, new carpet, just stuff like that, just to kind of make, if you feel more at home, you feel a little happier. So
Right on.
and stuff. So, but my career is it's pretty interesting, going from infantry to being a recruiter to working in a HIMARS unit, and then going to the old guard, then getting command, which was amazing, and then now I'm at the Pentagon. So
Crazy. And that's when we were talking last week scheduling this. You're like, yeah, I think I'm going to retire next year. I'm like, wait a second, that's not possible.
Yeah.
You're like, no, 20, bro, I'm done.
Yeah, you blink and it's over. So it's a unique thing, and I've you mentioned when we started, that college seemed like it was yesterday. And my brain feels that way, but then I get up in the morning, my back's like, oh no, we're 41. Calm down.
Yeah, I feel that a lot too, for sure. So, has there ever been like a attempt, I guess, on the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier? Like, has somebody been like, big enough jerk to try to do something bad, graffiti or whatever? I don't know.
Not that I can speak on, that I know of. I'm sure there's, if you ask people from the 60s and 70s, they probably have better stories.
Right.
But during my time as a commander, no. There's the biggest problem more than anything is people not understanding what quiet is, I guess. Which is perfectly understandable. There's, people that, have their phone starts ringing real loud.
Yeah.
It's a place that's, the signs all around it say silence and respect. And it's just kind of a, understanding what that means. And, it's okay to talk, quietly on the side. But, if you're watching YouTube, that's probably not the best.
Right.
So, and every now and then someone will drop a water bottle and it'll go onto the plaza, little things, but never anything egregious that I'm aware of.
That's good. That'd be pretty discouraging if somebody, in modern history was a big enough idiot to try to do something.
Yeah. So
there's a celebration out there, I think, on Thursday, right, on actual Veterans Day for the 100-year anniversary.
Yeah, so it actually started today.
Okay.
So it's a unbelievable, unique experience. Is the 9th and the 10th is the public wreath lane or public rose lane. So the area around the tomb, obviously where the guard walks and stuff, no one ever goes there. So they removed some of the barriers and allowed the guard to allow people to go onto the plaza. So there's a never-ending line of people walking through, laying a rose in front of the tomb, and it's once in 100 years type of opportunity. So there's a bunch of people there doing that. So that's today and tomorrow. And then obviously the 100-year celebration, for lack of better words, a memorial.
Yeah.
Is on the 11th, and the 11th day at the 11th hour. So at 11 a.m. Eastern time is the mark of 100 years.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Really, really cool. When we were thinking about Veterans Day coming up, and we talked about maybe interviewing a couple of our veterans here. I think we're going to save that for next year because somebody pointed out that it was the 100-year anniversary for Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and then I was talking with Tim, and he was like, "Dude, Travis." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I got to get a hold of Travis. Let's talk to Trav. This will be perfect."
Tim's a good dude.
Yeah, Tim's one of our, not one of our, he's our new, relatively new director of engineering here, and has been around for the industry for quite a while. And you and him worked on some stuff together when he was at SIG, I believe. So.
Yeah. So Tim and I were, he was the designer, and, I was throwing ideas at him. So when SIG was awarded the contract for the M17, for the Army, as a commander, I reached out to SIG directly and said, "It's brown, we probably won't carry it because it doesn't match the uniform very good in front of the tomb. This dark blue jacket and a sand brown pistol is not going to look very pretty. Is there any way ours can be black?" And SIG was very courteous and said, "Hey, we can do better than black, And so they donated 4 custom-made pistols that very much are a living piece of history that the guard carries, the changer. So whenever they walk out, that gun has wooden grips from wood off of the USS Olympia that carry the unknown.
Tim
from
told me
France
that.
to the
That's
US.
so cool.
And the sights in it, the white dots for the sights are, so when they in 1998 when they pulled out the body for the Vietnam unknown and identified him as Lieutenant Blassie of the Air Force, all that part. So there's marble dust, that was collected, and somebody on guard that night kept swept up all that marble dust, and they donated like half a teaspoon to us, and we poured that dust into gel state of glass and rolled it into it, and then twisted that into the sights. So the actual white dots of the sights.
Oh, no kidding!
Glass,
it's like the dust from the marble
of the dust of the actual tomb. So it's just to kind of encompass, all that history. There's plenty of articles out there, and pictures. I have quite a few more pictures than most.
I bet.
But it's a pretty remarkable process of, that Tim, project managed all the way through, and they're really shiny too. So it was a lot of fun, and getting to see that from an idea in January of 18, to they present them in October, was one really quick turnaround. 9.5 months from concept to completion. So
yeah, that's really cool that that they were able to do that. Obviously, we're not trying to make a SIG commercial here, but I think it's about. I think it's really cool and relevant to what's going on. With the connection with Tim, he was. He had kind of multiple hats there, but ultimately he was kind of responsible for the custom shop at SIG. So,
right.
That's really cool. He was able to help you guys out like that.
Yeah, it was a unique experience, and it was kind of a, once in a lifetime opportunity. And this, for me, I was just lucky to be the man on the field.
Yeah, to be the guy that was there while that project was going on. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it was getting to go up. Got to go to SIG's factory and stuff, and that was cool. But the biggest thing is just that I enjoyed the most about that project is being around the guys, and the couple girls actually at the time, in the tomb. And, the 6 hours we spent with them on like ideas and getting to hear from them what is important to this place. Getting to hear, hey, on the front of the tomb are 3 Greek figures.
Yeah.
You have peace, valor, and victory. Okay, why are they there? What's important about them? What is important to them about them to you? So kind of to tie those generations together was great. And then, the wreaths on the side are inverted, to represent mourning, and to get a full walk down of what the tomb is and what does it represent and what is it important, and it's really fascinating to have all those little details, presented to you from somebody that cherishes it, because it's, to the guards, it's way more than just a tomb and a place of mourning or reverence.
Sure.
It's, they understand all the little details of it. And that's what I think is that was the most, enjoyable part, was just kind of truly hear, because soldiers are not very, they're not very inclined to like share our feelings about a lot of things. so to get that broken, and kind of get that inside view on, hey, what is important to you? Why is it important? Some people carry, there's plenty of movies where, people collect sand from their deployments, or a rock here, or,
right.
A picture. They always do a selfie somewhere here. Everybody has their things, but like, what is it about this place that makes it important to you? And I enjoyed that for that project, and just in general, anytime I had a new soldier that was trying out, that's what I always asked them, is why is this place important to you?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How's it work for the guards? Do they have to commit to a certain period of time, or as long as they can? What's the average tenure? What's that look like?
Well, it varies. There's no specific time requirement. Typically, it's you need to have a year availability before the Army is going to move you somewhere else to try out, and the average guard, it takes them about 9 months to master the training.
No kidding.
So there's a window of time where you're capable of doing the job,
Yeah.
and you're not going to trip and fall, or not going to turn the wrong direction, or anything, egregiously embarrassing. But there's, from that point to, receiving your badge and mastering the craft, is, the average person, like I said, it's about 7 to 9 months, depending upon the time you spend practicing on your own.
Wow. So then the next 3 to 5 months is the time you're kind of there doing the job, and then you may be moved on after that?
Yeah, so it varies. Like I said, I mean, there's people that are down there for 3 or 4 years.
Right on.
Which is, I commend them. It's like I said earlier, it's a grind, like any job can be. But they it's like I said, it's every individual guard's career path, what they have going on. Promotions affect a lot of things, and when we opened it, I say when the Army opened it up from infantry to other branches, military police, mechanics, medics, public affairs, basically any branch, if they're in the old guard, they can try out. So there's the window. There was public affairs. This soldier, tried out, made it, but he couldn't stay there for that long because he had a public affairs job that he had to go do. Because anytime we're not using infantry soldiers, we're hurting, that branch somewhere else.
Gotcha. Man, that's interesting. I feel like I know a whole lot more than I did 30 minutes ago.
It's all good.
But
walk down history lane.
Before we jump off, Trav, is there anything that I didn't ask but should have about Tomb of the Unknown Soldier?
I would just encourage all your listeners that it's to pay attention and watch the ceremonies on the 11th. Definitely on whatever. I mean, it'll be on most every single channel. I
bet.
And then just to do some research on it. It's a fascinating place. It's a fascinating, just the cemetery in general. And in today's time, as far as a lot of other things, to understand how Arlington Cemetery became what it is, and how the tomb became what it is, and how that plays into the Army today. I think all of it, to understand your history, is a very valuable tool.
For sure. Well, Trav, thanks for your service personally, and I just want to encourage all of the listeners to the podcast to take a minute, whatever your belief system is, take a minute of silence, prayer, and really reflect on what freedom means. I mean, that's what that day's about. That's what Veterans Day is about the people that came before and maybe didn't come home, so that we can enjoy the life that we have. It's pretty cool that we're able to live here in the country where we've got complete freedom, essentially. I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel like it if we talk about modern political things, but I'm not going to go there. Really, though, we're super blessed to live where we're at, and it's pretty cool. And it's guys like you, Trav, that made that happen. So appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much.